Hi, everyone. Welcome to Basic Binges, part of Nom Talk Network. On this show, we review popular shows while eating and drinking our favorite binge-worthy snacks and drinks. If you're watching live, don't forget to redeem those channel points. I did that a couple of days ago and was kind of mean, so you can go in on us if you would like. But I am your host, Erric Ramirez, and right now I am enjoying delicious Greek food. So I have hummus and pita bread, and then I have, I don't know if you can see this, rice with chicken and lamb and everything. It is delicious, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. Thank you, Upstate New York, for delivering this to me. But I want to introduce you guys to our guests. Thank you, Jordyn, Kyle, and Alejandro for being here. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, and what are you snacking and drinking on? Jordyn, we'll start with you.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm so excited to tackle this wonderful and amazing end to this Disney Plus show. Right now, I'm having as always, sponsor us Cutwater. I'm having a tiki rum hurricane in my little koozie, and I got some Wagyu beef stroganoff that I got from a local restaurant, which is very good, always good. So yeah, that's what I'm having.
Nice. That sounds delicious. Also, I'm drinking water because water is necessary for everybody. Hydrate out there. Um, Kyle, what are you snacking and drinking on tonight?
Well, you said water was necessary, so we've got my fresh bottle of water that I picked up before coming home, and then last night I deep fried some pierogi. So I'm eating pierogi, and I have this really amazing, delicious, crunchy sauce on top of the pierogi, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. It's like a chili garlic sauce, and I don't even care if it goes on pierogi. It's so delicious. I put it on everything.
You know, I always forget pierogies are so good. I can't remember the last time I
Mhm.
had one, maybe last year, but they're always so good. Now I'm kind of jealous of you. But thank you for being here. And Alejandro, welcome back. Introduce yourself and what are you snacking and drinking on?
Hey, I'm Alejandro, and I am the least healthy of everyone here because all I have is some Wendy's burger and some fries and a Coke and no sponsorship, hint, hint. But still, I mean, it's like not as glamorous, but I'm happy.
It's delicious nonetheless, though, and I enjoy a good Wendy's and Coke.
I do too. So good.
Oh yeah, delicious. But thank you all for being here today. Today we are talking about episodes 5 through 8 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. But before we start, I do want to let you know that we are still fundraising for the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is a nonprofit organization focused on suicide prevention efforts among the LGBTQIA plus youth. So be sure to check that out. But let's get into it, guys. So last week we ended we ended with them blowing up the St. Louis Arch and that weird river picking him up from the St. Louis Arch because somebody doesn't know geography. But so we start off the episode with cops everywhere and Annabeth and Grover kind of in the midst of cops in the St. Louis Arch on fire and they're worried about Percy. And Annabeth happens to see the fates and she sees a cord cut. They go and they find Percy, and he's like, "We have to go to Santa Monica because my dad wants to see me." And then he says, "Well, we can't really take train transportation right now, and they're going to be looking for us. So how do we get there?" So they start hoofing it on the highway, which is kind of ridiculous. I don't know where they actually ended up. They're supposed to be in Denver, but you can't really do that by walking. Um, and on their walk there, they see a biker and hide behind a thing, one of the median things, and it turns out that the biker stops and it is Aries. Aries tells them to meet them at this restaurant, and they go and meet him there, and he tells them, "Well, I can get you to Santa Monica because everybody's looking for you, and I can get you this, but you have to go to this theme park and get my shield back for me because I'm missing it, and you guys have to go do it." So they go to this amusement park, um, and get on this ride. It's like a love ride. I did write it down, but I can't remember the name of it. And Annabeth and Percy go on the ride and end up seeing this chair and the statue. The chair is a chair that Hephaestus put Hera in to trap her. And the deal that she made to get out of that chair, because none of the gods could do it, was that he was going to marry Aphrodite. Now, push comes to shove, Ares is in a relationship with Aphrodite, even though she's married to Hephaestus. So he's always kind of angry and trying to catch them. But long story short, Percy sits in the chair, turns to gold. Annabeth gets the shield, ends up talking to Hephaestus and convincing him to release Percy. And then they take the shield back to Ares, and Ares puts them in a truck full of animals and sends them on their lovely way towards Las Vegas. There was a lot that happened in this episode. What are your guys' feelings on this? We'll start with you on this one, Alejandro.
When it comes to it initially, I'm a sucker for who plays Ares in general, so let's be real. That was kind of an exciting moment for me when we realized to see who the individual. We'll go there a little later. But I will say it seemed to be, for being a lot, the pace was faster than the previous episodes, in my opinion, just in reality. So it seemed like someone got the hint, in my opinion, while they were editing, figured, hey, let's go ahead and make this a visual process. And being from the experience of actually, like, once again, I have not read the books, but from actually seeing the film itself, previous, I would say, two that they mismatched and so forth as well. I felt like there was more of a travel, or let's say a destination they were going on. It felt like they were actually part of a fellowship. No Lord of the Rings fellowship. I'm sorry. It's just one of those things. I just really felt like there was a trail going on. Now, what I also found interesting though is when Percy kind of just like puffed his chest up to Ares, I kind of was like I kind of started rooting for him. And you see him being like so tiny, but at this point that how powerful he is and so forth as well. So I felt like they kind of did a I'm not gonna say 100% of a great job, but an attempt to actually make Percy seem like, all right, this is my time. I'm here. I have a goal, which is my mother. Not only, I have the desire to see, my father. And in reality, it did seem to me like, okay, I can see he can try to take him on in reality, because we see how much water he can actually control at one time being. So I got a feeling, it just felt pretty good. But once again, I felt like the pacing was sped up. But I thought they did a really great job of showing like an initial a trials and tribulations trail at the beginning of it. So I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. I overall liked the episode. I did figure out what my issue is with the series though during this episode. Because I like the fact that they brought in Ares and they went to the amusement park and everything like that. My issue with this episode's previous and everything, and I get this is a child's TV show and they can't put everything in the books. They're dumbing it down too much.
Mm-hmm.
They're combining everything and just making it too simple for me, because the books had a lot, the movie even had a lot, and it's just too simple with everything they could have done. And this episode made me figure it out because of the tunnel of love that they went through. In the books, it's supposed to be like spiders and webs and everything like that, and it was just a simple ride in this TV show, and they could have done so much with it. So that's where I started to figure out what my issue is with this series. But Jordyn, we'll go to you on this as well. What did you think of this episode?
It was so I'm glad they introduced Ares, obviously, because like in the books, it's like canon, do all that stuff. But I definitely agree. I feel like, and this is my gripe with every episode except for the last one, which we will talk about later on in this episode, right? I feel like everything is just condensed to try and, like it's almost like the shows that we watched when we were kids, where it was condensed enough to where we were like, we love this show. And then it was like, oh, but what's going on? Right. And I feel like it was too condensed, right? Like we got that whole like scene where he's like, oh, this is happening. Oh, I need to sit in the chair. Like, I will sacrifice myself, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. And then it was like, oh, everything's fine. And I'm like, well, there's more to that, right? And so I feel like for this episode, I knew that Ares was going to play a pivotal role in season one, only because like we have to like get the whole Clarice thing going on, right? Like in a couple, like in the second and third book, right? And this, and everything. But I do feel like this episode was like pivotal, right? Because you get like Grover, who's like talking to Ares in the diner and gets like all this information from him, right? Like, and like gets certain things from him that we wouldn't normally see in, sort of like anything else that we did. So like I said, I still feel like it was a condensed version, right? Like it was a Campbell's soup condensed can of like what Percy Jackson is. But
It
I
was the
feel
Great
like,
Value brand.
yeah,
Oh,
it was great value. It was up and up. It was Target. It's giving Target up and up, right? But like I think bottom line, like it was knowing what I know now, seeing the later episodes, it was fine.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, though. But Kyle, what are your thoughts on this episode? How did you feel?
So it's interesting that you bring up the idea that both Jordyn and Alejandro kind of bring up the idea that it's like it's similar to shows that we watched as kids, because I have a weird issue, and we'll bring it up with the finale, but I have a weird issue with how the finale was cut. Not with the pacing or anything else, but with how it was cut. And we'll get into that. But with this one, I started to notice it a little bit. But I liked this one. It had a lot more that I wanted. We got to see some of the Greek gods because, and I've said this before in the last episode that we did. It's very disconcerting to me knowing the Greek gods mythology, still trying to divorce myself from that, like, weird family squabble. So it was really cool to see Ares, really cool to get like that sibling rivalry with Athena. I hope we get to see Athena at some point in the series with the two of them, because I think that'd be amazing. I mean, y'all know me, I love I love me a good theme park. Hephaestus's theme park, I was just like, that was the coolest thing. The chair, I watched the thing at the end. I was like, are they gonna do it? No, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. And then I was like, okay, they didn't. So the emotional payoff wasn't there for me, but I liked a lot about this episode. It definitely, they always tell you watch at least 3 to 4 episodes in. This one cemented it.
Yeah, no, I get it. The Tunnel of Love, I did love like the story of it going across. I thought that was really brilliant of them to do. And the guy who's playing Ares, definitely love him. He's an ex-wrestler and everything like that. Although I did see, or one of us mentioned last week, or I saw something that somebody was saying that he should be Hermes, because Hermes is pretty much like a slutty person, and he would fit that more than Lin-Manuel Miranda. And the actor is kind of like he doesn't really care. He like puts it all out there, so he would have fit that role a little bit more. But let's move on to episode 6. We take a zebra to Vegas. So they get Ares' shield back and take it to him. He stuffs them in a giant truck full of animals, and they get shipped off towards Vegas. And Grover starts talking to the animals as Annabeth and Percy are talking. He starts talking to the animals, and they've been kind of mistreated and everything like that. And they're figuring out how to get out of this truck. And he says the animals have a plan because they're tired of being there. So we skip to a scene, and the truck's crashed, and there's animals everywhere. And Percy, Annabeth, and Grover are outside of the truck, and they're in downtown Las Vegas on the Strip. So Grover says, "I granted them a satyr's prayer, and they're going to make it to the wild. They're fine. Let's go." So they end up going, and they come across the Lotus Hotel, where they're going to meet Hermes because they need another way to get to Santa Monica. They go into the hotel, and they kind of split up. Percy and Annabeth go together, and then Grover goes off by himself. Percy and Annabeth end up meeting Hermes, and Hermes pretty much tells them, like, this is a foolish trip. You're not going to do it. Like, we don't have faith in you, blah, blah, blah. And Grover meets another satyr, and the satyr says that he knows where Pan is, and it's this way. Follow him. It's this way. Annabeth gets frustrated with Hermes and ends up leaving, but secretly puts on her cap and goes around him and pickpockets him and gets his car keys, because Hermes' car can go anywhere in the blink of an eye. So after she gets the car keys, they go look for Grover, and they notice that they kind of start slipping memory and everything like that. And by the time they find Grover, he doesn't know who they are. He's playing a video game, doesn't remember what they're doing. They don't remember what they're doing. Come to find out that the Lotus Hotel is pretty much the island of the Lotus Eaters, and they're pumping lotus flower smell and everything through the air conditioning, and it's in their drinks and food, so you forget if you go there. They end up convincing Grover to go to this cab that Hermes has. And funniest scene in the show, I think, Percy trying to drive the cab because what he's doing. Hilarious. They get out, and then all of a sudden they are in Santa Monica in Los Angeles. And from there, they have to figure out. He goes into the water, and the naiad says, or the naiad says that his dad waited for him as long as possible, but he had to go. It's unfortunate, but he wishes him all the best. She gives Percy 4 pearls, and these pearls will transfer you back to Earth, land of the living, from the underworld. Well, from wherever, but from the underworld in this purpose, because he says you have to go to the underworld and talk to Hades because he probably stole the lightning bolt. So that's the end of this episode. I liked this episode a lot more. It moved well for me in pacing. I liked the story more. And it just had funny moments for me. I'm kind of getting tired of Lin-Manuel Miranda because he wasn't in the book in the Lotus Hotel. So they just kind of placed him in there. But I did like what he did too. I like the conversation and like how that went. What are your feelings about this episode, Kyle?
So I'm going to disagree with you because I thought that Lin-Manuel Miranda's inclusion, at least the godparents' inclusion, because I did go and I did watch the 2 movies. So I know a little more than I did. I watched the 2 movies, but the godparents' inclusion in the Lotus stuff, it humanized the parents. I mean, it's not that you want them to be human, but you want them to be complex or more complex characters than what you had in the movies. And admittedly, I don't know what about the books. The books are my next topic, but the movies, they were definitely just kind of giant versions of the actors wandering around, and I was like, that's weird. But so I liked that he was he was humanized in it. It was awkward. I liked how they did the Lotus stuff better than what they did in the movie. I have a lot of questions about how the whole thing works as far as like Vegas goes. I mean, like, is it like, do these people really never leave? Is it just a universally accepted fact? Like, do they get absorbed and start working there? Like, what's going on? But I loved it. I loved Grover. I was really invested in the idea that Pan might be there behind the Lotus Eaters. But I loved all of it. And then, of course, Poseidon didn't wait because he sucks. But I loved it. It was a good episode.
Yeah. To answer your question though about the hotel, because it kind of explains it in the other books and everything. Yes, people just walk in there, and there's people there from like the 1800s, 1700s, and they just pretty much have a good time, and that's how the Lotus Eaters and everybody in there kind of get their energy and feed off of it. So if you walk in, you're not meant to walk out, because that's how they sustain themselves.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Alejandro, what did you feel about this episode? What did you like? What did you dislike?
So generally I liked the episode, but see, I guess I enjoyed the casino, but for some odd reason, to me, the film did a better job in regards of glorifying it or showing like the quality of it. In my opinion, it wasn't glorified in the series much. I just don't know. I felt like maybe it's the nostalgic concept of seeing it. I just felt as if it kind of reflected casino life a little better in the film, in a sense, just in for style and design. Now for the story, I was hyped about it. Finally, having Grover actually have his what I would say moment, explaining once again the concept and trying to figure out why they're searching for Pan, a little bit more of getting revealing in a sense. And I figure it really shows what he's there for dual reasons, not only to be there for them, but also for himself. And he's trying to fight to not get lost in something that is greater than his own self being. But another thing about this too, though, is that when it comes to casinos, because I used to work for one, I found it really smart how they do this, because the big thing in casinos is they pump oxygen consistently through a casino in general for you people to be wide awake and playing. Yeah, that's a big thing. So the reveal coming with Lotus, I was like, I like that, because hypothetically speaking, if you didn't know, they're pumping a bunch of oxygen in, and they're really wanting people to stay anyway. So I found that really interesting how that was played out. Now, in regards to, I would say, the pacing, to backpedal a little bit, I felt like the pacing sped up the last episode, not to the pacing that I liked, but it was a little better. And I was like, all right, cool, it drove these things together. However, it seemed, once again, it seemed to be a little bit better. Just a little bit, something's missing. It kind of irked me a little bit still, because I will say the one thing I felt with, and if it wasn't for, Grover's acting, I believe that, just who he was and what he was doing, I felt as if there's something a little missing. What I meant by that, like, initially you see his path and his where he needs to go, but I just didn't feel as if the others got as lost per se. I don't know. I felt it was clipped together in a sense, but once again, it's a minor critique on my end. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a really great. The comedic relief was there. I feel as if there were some jokes previously in the past couple episodes that hit, but not as hard. But I really felt like it was a moment of like, hey, this is kind of funny. This is actually there. I was gonna ask you guys about Lin-Manuel Miranda and his appearance in the books, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. So I didn't know. Once again, never read it. I would, probably should start reading now. But once again, I generally like the episode. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the pumping of the lotus flower. I thought that was a brilliant idea. Because in the books, they actually don't spend a lot of time at the hotel. It's kind of
Okay.
like they're in and they're
Yeah.
out, so you don't get
Okay.
as much in there. The movie did way more. I think the movie did a little bit too much of it. But I do like the fact that it was just pumped in there. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda, for Hermes, in the second book, he really gets this moment with them that they just gave him in this episode.
Oh.
So I'm wondering now what they're going to do in the second series with him, because they just gave us what he did in the second book. So it's going to be kind of awkward, I think. Jordyn, what are your thoughts on this episode?
Sorry, my internet's going like in and out, so if I like go in and out, please, producer Steph, send me a message in the chat. So
I
can
did that last week. Remember, I was Medusa.
You're getting Medusa, Jordyn.
I did. Wait, am I Medusa now?
No, I said
you're
I
good.
got Medusa last week.
Terrible, terrible. Oh my god. So, yeah, I've already said my gripe about Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like, I'm like, you're in everything. Like, chill out. Like, give other people opportunities. Like, you're the white brown person for Disney. Like, can we just pause for a little bit? So that's my gripe with him. I'm like, look, like you sound like a white dude. Like, we get that you're brown, right? Like, we get it. We get it. Like, you produce like Luana and all these things. Like, it's fine. Like, you write music, you do all this stuff. But like, let's give some like awesome people of color the opportunity to be the forefront of like Disney, to be the forefront of like all this stuff. And so like for him to be in this, I'm like, you sound like a white bro. Like you sound like a white bro. Like you're doing this shit. I get it. Whatever. Anyway, that's my gripe. Moving on. I loved this episode. It's great. This was like a chapter in the book that I think was like super, it was needed, but also I don't think it deserved a full episode for this season, right? Like but I do feel like it was definitely progressive of Grover's story, his personal like storyline, right? Like I do feel like it was definitely something that should have been there because as we see in the later episodes, which we'll talk about, spoiler alert, like Grover gets his license and like he can look for Pan, right? Like and so I feel like it was necessary. But at the same time, I don't feel like it deserved a whole episode. I do like how they got Hermes cab to like just like transport anywhere and then we like transition into the next episode for it. But I kind of like this, right? Like um it was almost like the dangers of gambling, the dangers of being in a place where there's like sin, right? Like, and I feel like this is like a definite sort of like episode or, a thing where it's like, yeah, cool. Like, it's Vegas. Like, we know what it is. But at the same time, it's like, oh, well, like, should we be here? I don't know, right? So.
I just have to say that is the best descriptor of Lin-Manuel Miranda I have ever heard in my life. And thank you for that, Jordyn.
Period.
I was
You're
trying
welcome.
not to laugh, but as
I
that was something
said-
real.
I
No,
said what I said.
You said what you said, and it gives me personal joy. Thank you for that.
I love it.
But so now we're moving on to the 7th episode. We find out the truth, sort of. So they get the 4 pearls from the Naiad, and she tells them the entrance to Hades is in a waterbed supply store. So they go to this waterbed supply store, and they already know something's going to be up. So Percy walks in and starts talking to the guy, which his name slips my mind right now for some odd reason. But he starts talking to him, and come to find out it's his long brother. That's another one of Poseidon kids, and he is, to put it blank, an asshole. And the reason he sells these beds is because he traps people in them and like makes them long and stuff like that, and they're supposed to live in these beds forever so he can like eat them and gain powers and everything like that. But they turned the tables on him, and Annabeth actually followed Percy into the waterbed supply store, and they push him on the bed and pretty much blackmail him into telling him where the door is to go to
Procrustes.
Thank you. And so he's locked on the bed, and they go to the back where the office is and go through a random door, and then they're in Hades. So they first end up on the line, walking into Hades. It's desolate, huge wall. They see a line full of dead people. Think they're going to be cool, even though they're alive. And then they get up, and the ferryman is just like, "You're not dead. Come here. And he calls Cerberus.
Fluffy. He calls Fluffy from Harry Potter.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Damn it!
Thank you. I was like, "That's Fluffy. That's fucking Fluffy."
It is. But he called them, and they end up start running because he's going to eat them pretty much. He does manage to eat Grover, and then Annabeth has this great idea to crawl up on him and start petting him, and he spits out Grover. And then Grover, who is now wearing the shoes that Luke gave them with the wings on them, which are still very freaking cool, flies Percy up to the top of the wall, and they're standing up there trying to figure out how to get it, and they squeak a squeaky ball. And Cerberus jumps up, Annabeth kind of hangs onto the wall, and then they throw the ball into the river, and Cerberus jumps and hops down trying to catch this tiny little red ball. Then after that, they go to the fields of Asphodel, which are a bunch of trees. It's a forest in this episode for some reason. And they're seeing all these people who had some unfinished business, or like something that worried them and everything. So they're stuck there. They can't move on. They can't go anywhere else. They're going, and unfortunately, Annabeth's foot gets stuck in one of the branches on the ground because she has not dealt with it, and they can't figure out how to get her out. So she ends up using her pearl to jettison out of Hades because that's the only way it'll save her. On their walk to Hades Palace, the shoes weirdly kick on and try to pull Grover into Hades, or Tartarus. As he's trying to pull Grover into Tartarus, Percy grabs him, and the shoes fly off and go into the hole and are never seen again. And they grab the backpack that Ares gave them, and lo and behold, we found the lightning bolt, guys. Finally, we've been 7 episodes in, and we finally found it. But they figure out that Ares gave him the backpack with the lightning bolt in it, and they're trying to frame Percy. So Percy goes and talks to Hades. Hades comes out, which was a lot more unmenacing than I anticipated it being.
I know.
They kind of sit there and just chit chat and have a conversation. And Hades is pretty nice to Percy. And then he's like, just give it back and all's good, and I'll release your mom. And he pulls out the lightning bolt, and Hades is like, I don't want the lightning bolt. I want my helm back, because not only was Zeus's lightning bolt taken, but Hades' helm was taken. Now, Hades' helm can like make people invisible, everything like that. So it's also a very strong, powerful item. So that's why they think Poseidon took it, or Poseidon's kid take it. Percy almost agrees, and then has a thought, and he's like, I'm going to take your first offer that I will get you your helm back, and you're going to release my mother, but we're going to go, and we will be back. They crush their pearls, and they end up on a beach. And Annabeth is there already, and the scene ends with Ares walking up to them with his sword drawn. What were your guys' thoughts on this episode? For me, I liked the looks of some things, but overall, it just felt back to like episode 3, just kind of slower, and they weren't really giving into detail. Plus, since I've read the books and everything like that, it's not how it's like described. Like, it's not a forest, and like it just weird things happen. Hades is a little bit more menacing and everything like that in the book. Even in the original movie, he's more menacing and more powerful. So it just kind of confused me a little bit. It wasn't my favorite episode, but I don't hate it. Jordyn, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, so what I will say, moving on to the next episode, also too, is I do love how they have made the gods more human. Where in a way where it's like, I wanna like see a god that I wanna fuck. Like, period. Because they're gods, right? Like, you're like, they're having all these kids, they're doing all this shit. You're like, oh my god, yeah, like let's do this. Oh, blah, blah. But like Hades, I'm like, wouldn't do it. Wouldn't hop on it. Even like when we get introduced to Poseidon, I'm like, wouldn't do it. I don't know about you. But like even when we get introduced to Zeus, right? Like I'm like, oh, right. And so even Ares, right? So what I do appreciate is that they have humanized these gods in a way where we can digest them in a way where the general audience is like, oh yeah, like we can beat the shit out of him, right? Like, and so like I love that, right? Which is what like Percy did with Ares, right? Like in this next episode, all that stuff. Um, I I I feel like the whole series has been leading up to these last episodes, and I've appreciated the build up. I've appreciated all this stuff, right? Like I just I've loved the way that they've done this because like as you know from like 1 to 4, I was like, this is stupid, this is bullshit, this is blah blah blah. But I feel like in this episode, I was like, oh, now I'm interested. Like now I want to see more. Now I want to know where this entire series is leading up to. And I've loved every aspect of it. And so yeah, like I was totally looking forward to the fight between Eddie's and fucking Percy. I'm like, oh yeah, he's gonna whip his ass. Like, go Percy, like I'm all for you, let's do it, right? But also too, like it it I love how they have sort of like intertwined like Zeus, Poseidon, and like Hades, right? Like because if you know mythology, and Kyle, you can probably speak to this, but like they're like the big three, right? Like they rule over everybody and they can say what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. And I appreciated all of it. So
I think we've switched since the last episode with the first 4 episodes and these ones because I'm looking forward to it because I'm a fan of the books and everything, but now I'm kind of worried about where they're going to go based off these last couple of episodes.
Sure.
Before we get to you, Alejandro, and you, Kyle, I do have to jump into the chat really quickly because Cue Ball, although being late, he is here.
Cue
Ninja Turtles mac and cheese. He says, I watched the Percy movies and I liked them okay, and I love mystic and gothic things. But my question for you all is which childhood character or characters you would love to get the gothic and mystic treatment that would pique your interest? So I'll let you guys think about that because we also have things redeemed. We have Nom Talk Network redeemed Hydrate for us. So cheers, everybody.
Hydrate. Hydrate.
And then, never mind. We have 3 things redeemed. The next one that Cue Ball redeemed is Take a Bite. So bon appetit, everybody.
I think I ate all my stuff because I'm a fatty. So I was
mime it, pretend it. We're doing Hook now.
Got like a piece of
my shit's down the hatch, so I already ate it.
But now, And this is to you, Alejandro.
Jesus Christ.
Cue Ball also redeemed You're So Punny.
Oh no!
All right. I have to think of a pun.
To who?
Alejandro.
Oh my goodness, I gotta come with a pun.
Thanks, Q. Love you.
Okay, so we'll let you think about that. But how did you feel about this episode, Kyle? And also, which childhood character or characters would you love to see in the Gothic mystic treatment?
So it's ironic because okay, no, let me go back with this. With this episode, there was some stuff I feel like first of all, the thing that I noticed first and foremost was at the head of the line when you go into Hades, there's a pilot, and I'm like, oh god, what happened? That was just immediately drew my eye. There's just these pilots standing there, and I'm like, did a plane crash? And I don't know, and I'm sure that given how they play up all the weather and stuff, that might have happened. But I was, for some reason, that immediately drew my eye, and I was like, oh, what a thing to think about. No, I liked Fluffy. I really liked Fluffy. I liked how they played with the squeaky toy, how it was a stress ball, and then it became the thing. The forest was genuinely unsettling for me. I don't know how it is in the book. I honestly don't remember how it was in the movie. I don't think they really went into it.
No.
But the forest and the way that they did it and the art and everything was just was upsetting. There was something about it that really hit. I have this thing where I'm scared of monsters and stuff that stand out in the open that they're not trying to hide, which is kind of what the things that the people in the forest where they were just kind of standing there, because it tells me that they have no fear. Like they know that they can take you down. They don't need to hide from you to do anything to you. They just need to sit there and be spooky. So that really unnerved me. I was genuinely worried for Annabeth, but then I was also like, no, this isn't gonna happen. I liked Hades better than this, but I really want to see their take on Persephone because after watching the movie, I'm like, where's Persephone? Where's my girl? Where's my girl? Oh no, Erric is shaking his head no.
She's not in it.
What?
They added her for the movie, but she's not technically in the books.
Boo! She's really important. She's got a whole web comic based on her with Lore Olympus.
Well, what I feel is like the TV show definitely did more towards the book, not accurately, but more towards Hades, and the movie is more like Christian Hill. So.
Okay. I was like, damn, I like out of the pantheon, I like Persephone. I thought the little twist. I really like Percy as a character. There's this comedian on YouTube who does the difference between Harry Potter and Percy Jackson bits, and I can't remember her name, but it's so funny because she's like, "Oh, I'm Harry Potter and I'm 11 years old and I don't really do anything." Blah 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 blah. I guess I could worry about this prophecy. And then it's like Percy Jackson where he's just like, what? I'm 12 years old. I will punch the god of the underworld. What? What's up? What's up? I will punch the god of the underworld. Prophecy, bring it on. And God, I wish I could remember her name. It was so funny. But no, I loved it. Absolute hype. Agree with everything Alejandro said. But yeah, the forest was unnerving. My one gripe, no Persephone.
I do give it, the forest was unnerving, but those are the fields of Asphodel. People just kind of wander or stand there and don't know anything. But Alejandro, time for your punny, and what did you think of this?
Oh my god. I'm gonna come up with a really cheesy thing. Since we're doing food, I guess, let us continue. And I'm super excited to talk about what I'm giving you a pin out. Okay, those are cheesy. I'm sorry. I had to really think hard. Thank you, Q. I'm gonna get you. I don't know when I'll get you back. I'm gonna get you somehow. But so here's the weird thing about this. So as I said before, I know all of us had a very similar opinion for the first 4 episodes. Needed to, speed up the pacing, needed to go ahead and flesh out some things a little bit more. And if so, it felt like they could have combined it a couple episodes, not just chop it up so much. Here we come to the next ones coming up here. And honestly, out of these, when we'll also continue with the next one coming up, but out of these that we're talking about, this is my least favorite of the 4. The first one, I would say it's my second least. The middle two are the best. Now, hear me out. That being said, the most terrifying moment that I've ever seen was on this episode. I'm just gonna call it the pit. You had homie getting dragged in with the shoes. That scared the living crap out of me. The growl that was there, I'm sorry. Like that, out of everything and all that was going on, I fell into the hype. That whatever would happen or wherever he was going, I felt fully like, oh, he's screwed. Those are not going to come off. So I got a little scared on there. And once again, I never read the book, so I had to, and once again, the movie did not explain any of this in any way, shape, or form in the past. So it was very new to me. Now with that, also I want to say that it was kind of funny. Jordyn hit the nail on the head. We're looking at Fluffy. It came around. I got a very Harry Potter feel to it. I felt in the situation how they were getting there. I was like, wait a minute. I feel like we've seen this done before, and it's exactly. And it felt just those that are familiar with the Harry Potter series. It was a very similar build up to where this was at. Now, I'm not saying that neither people took either people's idea or any way, shape, or form. Not saying that. Just saying that this particular filming aspect seemed to be very similar to another one. And then this is just me picking at stuff. Now, seeing Aries and knowing who the actor is, I will agree that I felt like I get a little upset because I think he plays really well for this role, but I think he could have done another role, in my opinion. Cough, cough. We'll go talk about where I thought, because I thought, who amongst the three of us, or the other three you guys mentioned that he should have been a Hermes.
I did.
I think there's something about it. I'm starting to get grow with that idea a little bit more. Before I was like, and now that I'm watching the show more and more, I was like, he could do both, but I don't know where it's kind of something's with me, because I really do, and you'll see that we'll talk about this next episode. I feel as if he could have been used more a little bit. I felt like he did a good menacing presence, but once again, this might be just me falling for the hype and the buildup that may have not been in the book. With that being said, like I said, the most terrifying concept was me with there. Other than that, I didn't like the episode that much. I mean, like I said, I thought there was a lot of good points. Once again, the one thing with me, like I said, when it came to Grover, when it came to Aries, when it came to the buildup of him going against Aries, I believe that I was down for it, and it was not. And once again, I don't believe it's the actor's fault. I don't believe it was necessarily the writing fault. Well, the writing had a good, I'd say, portion of it in this actual film. In regards to what I'm having a gripe with, let's say the script per se, but I really the editing irks me a little bit. It just, and once again, you really can't blame editing and storyline. It's one and the same sometimes. So once again, it could have been a collaboration of the sorts. I was still on pace. I was still ready to see the next episode, because realistically speaking, I'm gonna have to say something. I had to watch it this morning because I had to go miss something. I was like, oh my God, I'm way behind, because I remember when I had to see it. I was like, whoa. So naturally, the binge-worthy part of me wanted to see it. That's there. But I do believe that it was missing just a little bit, in my opinion, in regards to I'd say the pacing or the build-up. But that was just an example. All that being said and done, I was still the most terrified I've ever been in that freaking pit. So yeah, that's that.
I agree. I have to give him the Pit of Tartarus, because that was great and that was very well done. To your point that like the editing of it is off in a way, and that brings me back to like saying like they're dumbing it down, and I agree with the editing. They're dumbing it down, and I think that's what's getting to me these last 4 episodes, because now I'm starting to notice it. Which is unfortunate. But okay, so now we are on to the last episode of this series. We're done with the season. It's been a trippy turn, but we're at the prophecy comes true. So at the beginning of this episode, starts off at the end of last episode. Aries walking towards Percy now that they're on the beach with a sword, and Percy figures out that Aries is the one that gave him the thunderbolt in the bag, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I want a war to start because I'm done listening to my father Zeus and all of them being in power. I'm over it, blah, blah, blah. There's a new power. Fight me." Well, Percy's like, "I'm going to fight you because this is stupid. Give me back the helm of Hades." And for the first couple of seconds, Ares is kind of getting Percy's ass kicked. Like he's kicking his ass. Then Percy sends a big old water ocean wall towards Ares, and then is right behind him, cuts his Achilles heel, and he's just like, "Hey, you lost," and pisses Ares off. And Ares is like, "You have an enemy for life now." screw you, I'm going home, and then disappears. He leaves the helm.
Oh, wow.
And he goes and gets the helm and then turns, and they are at the house that he was at originally with his mother that she took him to. Somebody's in the house, so he thinks it's his mom. Walks in there, and it turns out to be Mega Molly Electo. And he's just like, hey, here's the helm. Tell Hades to give me back my mother. We good? She walks up, grabs the helm, wishes him good luck on Olympus, because at this point they have missed the summer solstice, so they have missed their deadline. She takes it, goes away, and then Percy turns to Annabeth and Grover and says, go back to camp, prepare them. War's coming. Also, by the way, Kronos is waking up, so that's going to be a good thing for us. We need to get prepared. I'm going to go tell Olympus. He goes all the way up to the Empire State Building, takes the elevator all the way up to Olympus, which was gorgeous. I actually really liked what they did with this. And goes up to the god's throne room, and we see Zeus. I do have to say, though, Lance Riddick, rest in peace. It was great seeing you. The last piece that you've done, because you have the energy. But Zeus walks up to Percy and pretty much is like, you missed the deadline. What are you doing here? I'm going to kill you. And he's like, well, here's your lightning bolt. And he's like, you have some balls on you. What are you doing here? And he's like, well, your dad Kronos is coming back, and he's going to beat all of you up and kick your asses. And you guys need to stop this war because it's stupid. And you guys need to focus on other things. Ares was a part of it, and you guys need to do something together. He's still not listening because he still wants to beat Poseidon, because that's what they do. And Percy keeps poking him. So he goes to go and shock him with his lightning bolt, and Poseidon shows up and grabs his arm and says, I surrender, you win. Let's just deal with this Kronos issue now. Then Zeus is like, okay, have Athena call up a meeting, and I'm going to gloat first, and then we're going to plan. Okay, cool. Percy and Poseidon kind of have a conversation about like, hey, do you dream about my mother? Do you want us? Do you want to be a family again? And then he just crushes a pearl and sends it back to Camp Halfway. He gets there. Everybody's been preparing for war. In a previous episode, they had talked to Luke and told him that, like, hey, somebody, I believe it's Clarice, stole the lightning bolt. Can you tell Chiron and everything like that? So they get back to camp, and Annabeth, Percy, and them are sitting there talking. And Percy tells Annabeth to go and make sure that Chiron knows, and him and Luke go into the forest because they're going to be talking. They have to talk about something because Luke said that Chiron's over there. So they're walking in the forest, and then Luke starts talking weird, and Percy figures out that it wasn't Clarice who stole the lightning bolt. In fact, it was Luke who stole the lightning bolt with the help of Ares, because Luke is tired of being mistreated by his parents. He has daddy issues.
Ooh.
But he's tired of that, and Kronos has been talking to him and Ares, because Ares also has daddy issues, so that's how they bond, I guess. Gives him Backbiter. Now, Backbiter can pretty much backdoor anything, and even into the camp.
Ooh, backdoor.
Percy ends up fighting Luke before he can open a back door to the camp. And Luke's pretty much beating him up, just like Ares kind of did. But then, lo and behold, Annabeth is not stupid, pulls off her hat, and she ends up kind of menacing to Luke. So Luke runs away. And then we go and figure out that, hey, guys, war's coming. Luke's a bad guy. Ares is a bad guy. We're all okay, but we're going to go home and deal with this next year, I guess. But we're going to plan. But that's the end of the episode, pretty much. What were you guys' thoughts about this? We'll start with you on this one, Alejandro.
Realistic. Okay, here's the thing. Before I talk about some things I found really great about this, the ending pissed me off. I'm just gonna be honest with you. The ending threw me off on there because I felt like I love the mom moment. I will get to that point. I love the mixture moment. I just feel that little portion there, how they were like, "Yo, don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll deal with this next summer during camp." I just felt like it was one of those things that they just didn't apply in a sense. Now, here's the deal. I felt that the scene between Percy and Ares was believable. I really believed it. I mean, here's the thing. The reason why I say this is because he was getting his ass kicked. I mean, every hit that he would do, he'd go back. Once again, hit, he'd go back once again. It felt like, okay, cool. I'm not going to be some invincible little, minion-like type to this massive Goliath character. I mean, he was taking hits. Now, from a perspective, I found very interesting. Now, what I found believable the most was the actual ability to take the fact that he is his father's son and use the sea to his advantage. And that, to me, right there and then was like, all right, cool. I'll mess with it. I'm down with this. This is starting to be a little believable because I was trying to figure out at one time being how they were. I mean, because Ares is freaking massive, and especially who this man is. I mean, you can't really go over the fact that he is known for being a wrestler. He's known being menacing. He's known by a lot of people. So making this believable was what I was worried about. Now, I thought that was believable. Now, in the aspects of going in and, once again, Lance Reddick, rest in peace, I was I was a little emotional moment. Knowing what I know, I'm a little bummed out because I wish, I could see him more. That'd be fantastic. But before that, going in, we're talking about Luke. Having previous experience with seeing the movie itself, when the movie happened and when from my remembrance of it, what ended up happening was I see the cute cat.
Well, so Jordyn is having a Percy Jackson fight with his cat right now, apparently.
But River the Nom Talk cat says hi to everybody. She's being a bit. Hi, River. Say hello. I love Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson was the best. Okay. She's like, let me the fuck alone. Anyway, okay. Sorry, Alejandro.
No, you're good. You're good. So in the film, you actually have Luke and Percy duke it out, and there's really this really quick reveal. There's no concept of the fact that they make it look like a guy with daddy issues and daddy issues only. He comes into the film from I remember, and was like, I'm the one that did it. It's just me. He doesn't imply that he, actually implied that he's working with anybody. It was kind of hard to figure out during the film of how he could have done it so sneakily, like, in a sense too. So I felt like the series did a better job in portraying that just from the visual concept. Once again, I never read the book, so if there was more adventurous feel, I totally get that. Hey, it might have been missing it, but to me, it felt a little bit more of a little more of a hole inside. Now, in the film itself, he never talked about alliance. He may have said, join forces for a brief explanation, and then it looked like he wanted to kill Percy, like plain and simple, like down and out. I felt that in this series, they made him seem to more maniacal in a sense, more methodic in a sense, and it made me believe that he actually conspired and got the lightning bolt to him in that team ship. Because in the film, it's just like boom, boom, boom. I was a sneaky, voila. But here, it felt like there was like a plan. Something happened.
I was a sneaky, voila.
Exactly. Spirit fingers, everything. But like I felt like as if it just was expected. So that was that. Now I also want to mention Poseidon, Toby Stevens. In a sense, before I forget here, I'm a couple things here because I'm missing something that's bugging me here. Also, what I want to mention, just in an episode previously we talked about, I want to make one thing I want to actually say that I forgot I missed. Krusty, we call him Krusty, right? He was death on Supernatural, so I was scared as shit of him when I had that little appearance over there. So I had to get a shout out for it. Now fast forward back to talking. Sorry, I digress a little bit. But that being said, once again I felt like that battle was great. Now mentioning Poseidon, Toby Stevens, I felt like they did a good job in going back to memories of Percy and explaining the situation and making him feel as if he had more love for them than expected. Now, let's be real. If you know anything about Greek mythology, the gods are sluts. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They slept with everything they wanted to because that's how it was. I mean, there was no shame for them in any way, shape, or form. So I did believe that the series did better in making them human, because the concept is always thought that God's made of us in their image, and you actually truly see them like, all right, cool, I can see now how this could be appearance. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some people who are like, all right, cool, how's this going to work out? But to see the fact that they're actually human being, or they look like they're human being, makes me believe, okay, cool, I can see how you probably made this appearance 300 times to individuals and slept your way through and not be some glowing aura of a person in a sense. So I thought that was very believable. But in that same sentence, Poseidon seemed to have that I would say curing nutriment concept over Percy. Now, the reason why I said this was very important, because at the end, how he just like, oh, I do love you, and he appears like, gone, sucker, I'm gone. I felt like, okay, cool, that was messed up. But they did show the memory of him loving the kid, always being there from a distance. So like, he didn't necessarily just pick up or say he was gonna go out for a pack of cigarettes and dipped. He kind of did have something, in a sense. So just like, it was.
He called on his birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
Be my camel.
So I did feel like there was more of that in a sense, with it. So there's that. I do feel as if there's more hope that I hope. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does Clarice have a big thing, more continuation in the book? Okay, because I feel that scene of her just being quiet, that like, if you look at it, I thought that was like good. Like, I've never seen somebody give like a stern stank face from a distance, and I felt like she did a tiny monologue. Because if you that duke out that, or here's the thing, even though we had Luke convince to convince Percy, like he was just like, hey, I want this alliance, I felt once again that he was being very that. But I felt not only that, but I felt more guilt for having like the whole feeling about her previously. Now I'm like, all right, cool, she's like, in a sense, she didn't really have to say anything, she just looked at it, it was believable. But anyway, I digress. I can go on and on about this, but like I said, I believe there was very believable moments, a very badass battles here and there. I felt that this did more justice towards the end, and felt like it showed more of a I thought thoughtful process compared to the film. Now, once again, I'm not saying how it's portrayed in the books, but just something compared to the previous films. But one thing, my biggest complaint, like, even though he had a very emotional moment with his mother in the house, the beach house, that was great. But I still felt as if the ending, it just felt like it was like, hey, don't worry, we'll deal with Luke and gods that could probably kill you later. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Just come back next summer for the next episode. That's the only thing that got me. That's it.
Yeah, no, I'm not liking. I mean, because that's pretty much how it is in the book too. They're like, we'll talk, but we're going home. We'll talk about it next summer, and you're just kind of like, okay. This is another one of those episodes, like the amusement park, that I was really just like, they are dumbing the stuff down, like even in comparison to the movies, like, because the fight between Ares and Percy is actually way longer in the, since you guys have seen the Lightning Thief movie, that fight that he has with Luke on top of the building, that's pretty much the fight he has with Ares in the book.
Ooh, okay.
So it's kind of unfortunate that we didn't get that, but everything else in this episode I really enjoyed, kind of, except for the fact that, much like you blaming Clarice throughout, you kind of do that in the book, but it's a little bit more shisty in the book. He does send Annabeth and Grover to Thing, but Luke disappears after they leave Hades, and they go back, and all of them are preparing for war, and like the camp is separating sides too. Like, we're on Zeus' side, we're on Poseidon's side, we're gonna fight each other while the gods are fighting each other.
So
it's a lot more like warlike on campgrounds. Then Percy goes into the forest with Luke and ends up getting poisoned by him, and Annabeth ends up saving him, because Luke, he says no to Luke, because it's much of that conversation. He says no, Luke poisons him, Annabeth saves him. So it's a little bit more spicy in the book. That's why I said it's also like dumbing it down. But overall, okay, season finale. Hope better for the season 2. I just hope they get a little bit more into it. But what are your thoughts on this one, Kyle?
I want you guys to think about the season finale as much as you've got in your head, and I want to ask you a question. Do you think it was cut weird? Because there are a couple of parts in this where it pauses, and I'm like, are they cutting this to prep for commercial breaks? That was what was so weird for me about this, because if you think about the point where he gets to, there's a couple of places where it's like he starts going up to Olympus, and then it cuts, and I could literally see in my head like a Tubi ad or Freebie ad playing, and then it jumps back to Olympus. And if you think about it, you notice it, right? Because, and I think that they're dumbing it down and then cutting it because they're trying to cut it for ad tier stuff. Honestly, that was what blew my mind about that. It's kind of sad, but I was like sitting there watching it and I was like, this is cut for commercials. These are commercial spaces in between the pauses on this. And other than that, other than my weird little editing, pay too much attention to movies gripe, I liked this episode. I liked hearing Alejandro talk about the gods and their parents. It made me realize that there is a good chance that if they're all doing because in the second movie, they had all of Luke's fellow demigods, and I'm like, it would be really interesting if they pulled in a bunch of other actors and actresses who are the children of Zeus, Poseidon, and everybody, who are just as pissed with the fact that Zeus and Poseidon and everybody suck. So like you could get Athena in on it, you could get Ares in on it, you could get Irish, I'm naming gods and goddesses, you could get Demeter in on it, you could get Persephone, I don't know why I'm suddenly becoming a champion for Persephone, but maybe it's because I saw Hades Town too many times. I love Hades Town, but you get all these different that they might be wanting to add more of that, but I liked this episode. I'm glad he got his mom back. I honestly thought, because they're humanizing the parents so much, I thought his dad was going to stick around. Kind of glad he didn't. I did rep my Hawaiian shirt for Poseidon. Even though I'm definitely not in Poseidon's cabin. I took the test. I'm definitely in Hermes' cabin. But like it was just like, oh, okay, this is they cut this so weird. They're prepping it to be a kid's like Goosebumps TV show kind of thing. So that kind of eased it back for me a little bit. But I like where it's going. I thought Lance Reddick was just heartbreaking. Like, dude, he would have been so good as Zeus. Like, his whole, I knew what was going on. Of course I did. That's what we do. And I'm like, did you though? Did you really? Did you know? But no, I liked it. I'm in for season 2, but I really do hope I'm wrong and that they're not cutting it for TV.
Yeah.
They might be. It's Disney. They might just open their own stuff and like they do. But yeah, no Lance Reddick. My worry about the next season, because I am excited about it. Clarice does get more of a role in the second book. So does Luke and everybody, and there's more gods, and you get all of that lovely stuff. My only worry is, who are they going to recast Zeus with? Because unfortunately, he's no longer here. So that is my worry, because I think he actually did a very good job in the role of Zeus, being so like domineering and just like having that strength. Very much the concierge from the movie
John Wick.
Thank you. The John Wick movies, how he did that, just very strong and present. And I don't know who else they can pick to play Zeus like that. But before we get to your opinion of this last episode, Jordyn, Nom Talk Network redeemed Stretch for everybody. So
Stretch.
Oh.
Oh shit. I hit a picture.
Stretch, don't knock down all the work.
Something snapped.
Jordyn, I was trying to do Wonder Twin activate with you. I couldn't get there. I was like, oh, I almost there.
Like Animal Crossing.
Now, Jordyn, what are your final thoughts on this episode?
Oh, okay. So this was my favorite episode. Only because a lot happened, and I was like, this is exactly what needs to happen in this series. So I thoroughly enjoyed the rival between Percy and Ares, where he clearly beat Ares, and Ares is a pussy ass bitch, and he was like, you earn yourself a million. I was like, don't do that. don't do that. And then he was like, okay, fine, whatever. Um, I bawled twice in this episode. The first time was when Lance Reddick showed up, right? Like Percy's walking to Olympus, and I was like, no, it's not him. No, it's not him. Because I've been a Lance Reddick fucking fan. Like I've played Destiny since day one, right? Like
Oh.
I have just like every Lance Reddick thing, been a fan. So I saw him and I was like, no, this ain't it. This ain't it. And nobody told me. So boo on you, boo on you, boo on you, boo on you. Nobody told me to prep myself for this shit.
I didn't.
And I saw him. Well, I bawled. I was like, no, this isn't.
Dude, we paused it. We paused it just for the
Paused it.
Yeah.
I paused it. And I was like, no. So I cried for a good 20 minutes and I was like, okay, I can do it. Go. And then I like fucking it was Lance Reddick. There it is. Awesome. Um so I love that. But same same little critique. I'm like, Poseidon's not hot. Like he's a normal human being, right? Like they have personified these gods, and I love this. I love that for this series where it's like you are all for Percy, and I love it, and it's great. Okay, great. But like I'm not gonna fucking go out of my way to like be like, oh, Poseidon's hot. Oh, Zeus is hot, right? I feel like this entire series has encapsulated what it means to be human and what it means to be a demigod, right? Like because they're not seen as like you know like gods are, right? Like they're seen as like less than. And I feel like this entire series has put demigods as like, oh no, like they can fuck you up because you ain't cute, right? So like it's just it's amazing and it's wonderful. But I also love the fact that like Percy got his mom back, right? Like I cried at that, and it was just I loved this episode. It was wholesome, it was great, it was beautiful, it was amazing, but also it left room, right, for like season two, season three, season four, right? Like with him getting visited by Kronos in his dream. And I was like, Kronos, get the fuck out of here. Like, you know you lost. Like, you know you ain't shit. Like, you know Percy's gonna fucking like ruin you. Like, let's not do that. But my only gripe is the fact that like Percy realized that Luke was the enemy, like literally 20 minutes until the episode ended. And I was like, I know that because I've read the books. I know that because I know I've seen the movie, but it really took you like 15 minutes before the last episode ended to realize that like Luke was the main villain. I don't know. I just thought it was a weird. I don't know. I was like we knew, but the general public was like, what the fuck's going on, right? So,
well, and I kind of think I really wish they would have went with it in one of the earlier episodes when they're talking to him on the iris message.
yeah.
When Annabeth like swipes it away and she's like, no, when they're on the animal truck, and she swipes it away. I was hoping she was going to be like, we can't trust him because I have a feeling, even though Annabeth is very close with him. I really was hoping for that, but unfortunately they didn't do it.
Yeah.
So guys, I want to get your guys' final thoughts over the overall season. How you feel? What do you hope for? For me, I am excited for season 2. Like I said, I'm a fan of the books and still kind of a fan of a movie that give me a different aspect. Like I said, multiverse, different Percy. I am excited to see where it goes. I hope the pacing gets better because I liked the acting. The pacing gets better. They bring in more people that are going to excite me for the gods and everything like that. And also, don't try not to give episodes that are forgettable because, to be honest, the episode I had to go back and watch because I didn't remember any of it. I watched it and I realized that yesterday. I was like, I don't remember anything. So I
Oh.
hope they don't do things like that. But Alejandro, what are your final thoughts of the season, and what do you want for future seasons?
Ultimately, I was happy to see that there seemed to be more of a story behind Percy Jackson and, in general than what I was introduced to in the film. I was a little nervous because I didn't like, I knew of the books and my brother was the reader of them. However, I never read them myself. Therefore, I really just didn't have a grasp of the true storyline that they were missing actually from the film. So I felt that this ultimately, as much as my complaints were of the editing, as much because Kyle, you mentioned before previously, I mentioned about a couple of things back, the editing was, irking. I know both of you mentioned previously as well, a couple of the previous good conversations. That's a lot of previous statements. But anyway, the point is that I feel
Previous
on previous
episode.
Previously on Avatar.
Oh man,
I'm excited for that one.
Dragon Ball Z. But the what I'm trying to get is that I felt as if that there was more of an explanation. I see the world fleshed out more. I feel as if that this may have been rushed in a sense, but I felt it was rushed because they wanted to show that it could be done. I felt like, okay, cool. This is the world. This is the potential. We have these big names that we have on here. We have strong acting chops. It seems that we have a believable, youth cast that we haven't had previously. It doesn't look like they're 25-year-old kids, Grover, but he's even though he's 24, he still looks like he's a 17-year-old kid. But I just feel that worked really well. That was a very, very it showed well on the actual series itself. I'm hoping that from this general experience that they pick up on the gripes. Maybe enough of us will complain or poke at the things that we disagree with, and able to learn with how they actually will go ahead and put out in the future series. I'm hoping that that we could get more of a episode 1 and 2 as an episode 1, or an episode 3 and 4, and like that's not together, but at least chop a couple of these out, put them out. I'd rather have an hour 20-minute episode coming in and having the detail from this and just play it out. Let's see how it goes. I would like to see more of that. But ultimate thumbs up. I once again, my complaints hopefully will be fixed in the future episodes and possibly a second season. I would love to hopefully get a more what's the best term of this? I want things more fleshed out. Even though I said there is flesh out here, I want to see more of that. Okay, I see a skeletal structure. We see the muscles building, but you're missing some stuff. You're missing the general presentation. You're missing the polish. You're missing the actual skin. Let's put it on there. So there are things that I still want to see in general, but ultimately still thumbs up.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm excited to see what's going on. I mean, on Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's getting very good reviews. It kind of dropped down from the audience because it was at 84. Now it's in 81. So after this last episode, so we'll see where it goes because it just premiered. My hope, though, is that it doesn't get heroed because of the writer's strike, and the second season is not as good.
Ooh.
That is my fear, because Heroes was so good until that writer's strike. But I mean, we're with the writers. Don't get us wrong. But rest in peace, Heroes. But Kyle, what are your thoughts about this overall season, and where do you want it to go?
So everybody mentioning Daddy, first of all, yes, agree. Rest in peace to Heroes. Everybody talking about daddy issues really has me interested in the idea of them getting some major name stars and having them play more of a role along these kids. Because these kids, one of the things we haven't talked about are the kids. These kids are good actors. These are solid little actors, all three of them. I really want to see them in more things. Give them other things that aren't, Disney genre properties, because I think that they've got careers ahead of them. They're going to do really well. So put them in a space where they can learn from them. You know what? And then so like put him in a space where it's like, nobody wants Lin-Manuel Miranda to stick around, but have him and Luke like, reconcile, and then Hermes is like, yeah, you know what? My dad sucks. Fuck my dad. We'll team up and we'll go say fuck my dad, or or anything like that. And and you know what I want, and this is the only thing I can think of. I guess I'm making myself the #1 Persephone and Demeter stan, but I suddenly want Rosario Dawson to play Demeter and then have someone else play Persephone, because that would be the movie nod because she played Persephone in the movie. So if they put her as Demeter, I don't know if she's in the books or in the other movies, but I think that would be a little funny thing. Other than that, yeah, don't get heroes. Just like don't get Medusa. You know, if you're on Zoom, don't get Medusa. Don't get heroes. More development of that, so it's not just a bunch of kids punching each other. I really do think it would be interesting to have like the machinations of all these people, because it's like Jordyn said, these are like the celebrities of the time, but they're not just like, you know, doing true Hollywood story, you know, paparazzi shit. They're like, it's like, you know, it's like you get Bad Bunny out here and it's like, where did Bad Bunny go today? Oh, he turned into a fountain of light and then did it with
Yes.
They could have gotten Bad Bunny to play Hermes, and I would have been way more in than Lin-Manuel.
I would be. That would be more believable. Let's be real. That would be more believable.
That's a statement. That's a statement.
But I want to see more. I want to see more of how they tackle that, because so much of our culture is celebrity based, and you could really do something with like, oh, these are the kids of celebrities, and you know, and then you see what the celebrities are doing, and it's like, yeah, what did my dad do? Oh, my dad got pulled over by the cops, and he also turned into a horse and had sex with my mom.
Oh,
or a swan.
Oh,
you never know.
Oh God!
Wait.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, I'm trying to get
lore, all lore, guys, all lore.
Oh, this is not a lore drop. No.
But I agree with you, more celebrities. Just none of the Kardashians, please. None of them. If I see a
River
Kardashian
says,
as Aphrodite, I'm
River
gonna
the Nom Talk cat says no Kardashians.
But also, oh. Also,
No,
Kyle, you will be happy to know that Demeter is in the series, but not until the second series. So we won't unfortunately get to see her in this first one. But Jordyn, what are your thoughts of the season? What do you want? What do you wish for?
Well, River says, fuck this season. I'm just kidding. Bye.
Bye, River.
I honestly, it was a slow start. I was like, ooh, I don't know if I agree with this. And then as we move towards the latter episodes, and especially the last episode, I was like, okay, I can fuck with this. I definitely think there's room for potential, right? Like there's room for growth of the season. I think what they were doing is filling out what their audience was. And even though, sorry, I got river hair in my mouth. I honestly think they were testing out who their audience was, like, to be fair. And I consumed it. And I feel like with the latter part of the season, I was like, oh yeah, like I love it. Because I do agree with Kyle. The actors, like, even though like in the first 4 episodes, I was like, oh yeah, Percy sounds like he smokes like 12 packs a day. And like I am with it, like towards the last episode. I'm like, I fucking love it. And like Annabeth, like black girl, strong girl, and like at the last fucking like episode, she's got like love it. Fucking do it. And
so you'll
and
be happy to know for the Percy thing, he went through puberty during filming this. So he's actually grew taller than everybody and his voice dropped. So that's why you like voice at the end.
I love it. I love it. I love it. No, I love it. Better than Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Period. So funny to me.
Well, but so I love all of it. I'm looking forward to second season to see what happens. I definitely loved Luke's character. Even though I don't love like the fact that like in the last minute he's like, oh, I cried off that wow pussy boy. And like I'm not buying it. But I do like it. He's like, oh, backbiter can transform me to anyone. And I'm like, okay, why didn't you say that from like the jump? You know what I mean? But I do love Luke. And then Annabeth heard him. So I feel like this is I feel like this entire series is following the book way better than the movies did. I feel like it's giving, you know what I mean? I feel like it's
What is it
giving
giving?
the audience, yeah, it's giving Greek, right? Like it's giving mythology. And I feel like it's giving people what they needed to get, minus the movies and with an addition to the book. So I love the way this ended.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm excited to see where Clarice's character goes, and definitely Luke's. And then just to see all these kids older.
Yeah.
But that's it, guys. We are done with the season. Thank you guys for being here with me. We will get Greek maybe next year again. Who knows? We're about to go into nations later on this month, so look out for that one. I won't say anything, but you guys know. But thank you guys for being here for episodes 5 through 8. Thank you for being here from 1 to 8. Hopefully next season's 10 episodes so we can get a little bit more juicier stuff.
Heck yeah.
But again,
Yeah,
for everybody
yeah.
out there, we're talking about Percy Jackson and the Olympians. A shout out to my guests for being here with me, Jordyn, Kyle, and Alejandro. Let everybody out there know where they can find you. We'll start with you, Alejandro.
For me, you can find me, let's see, Instagram at IAMCOWIE. I am Cowie. A lot of reels and a lot of comedic concepts, trying to get a little bit more on the future. Or my little collecting site shows my plastic addiction to crack. Or plastic crack. Not what I don't promote drugs. It's plastic crack, which is going to be toys and collectibles and stuff. Let me clarify that and finish that statement before this is chopped and edited to be like they promote drug use. No, but those are the two areas you can find me. And yeah.
Well, thank you. And Kyle, what can everybody out there find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Kyle Poddig Arts. That's KYLEPODDIGARTS. Blue Sky at Kyle Poddig, and that's just Kyle Poddig, my name. Spelled the same, KYLEPODDIG. And TikTok at Caroline, CAROLING _cosplay, where you can see me unbox things, talk about mascot horror, and generally offer opinions, views, and political rants, all kinds of stuff over there. So yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you. And Jordyn, where can everybody out there locate you?
You can find me at I am Cowie. Oh, sorry, Alejandro. You can.
I believed you for a whole 3 seconds. I was like, that sounds just like me.
That was a bit, and I fucking love it.
You are on it today. I have to congratulate you. Bravo.
Period. You can find me at Instagram at City of Stars 13. No, that has nothing to do with the universe. It just has to do with living in Hollywood. And I post funny stories. I don't post funny stuff yet. But yeah, follow all these wonderful individuals. They post more than I do. So please follow them, love them, encroach on them, stalk them.
Also
we love them.
Love him.
Love me, just don't stalk me. Thanks. But
period.
Thank you guys for being here. And thank everybody out there for joining us on this amazing trip into Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Be sure to join our Discord to keep this conversation going, as well as subscribing to all of our other platforms at Nom Talk Network. But tune into our next show, which will be Friday, which we're doing Blazing Saddles. I'm your host, Erric Ramirez, again, and you can find me on all socials at Heartless7. That's HARTL, 3SS7. But until next time, Friday, have a nomorific day. Bye.
Wow.